Morning, everyone. So in this video, we're going to go over the new UB2 update. It's currently in beta, but you can get to it by going to the UB2 Discord and clicking the link, and everyone can try it out if they want to. So I'm going to go over some of the new features that I know about. Hopefully, I can get all of them. I did help consult a little bit on some of them, and it's still in progress. If you guys play test it, find a bug, find something that you want, potentially, go to the Discord, say it, and Lorenzo will do his best. Um, so it doesn't look that much different from the outside, a little cleaner looking. One thing I like here is that you can see who's playing, who has permissions. This is really nice because when you're going through games, if somebody's looking for a game, or it says like looking for game, you can see if there's two people playing that they already found one, or if there's only one person there, then you know they're still looking. There's a filter here where I can type in USA and it'll delete. So sometimes when there's a lot of games you're looking for your friend who's playing, you can type in his name and it'll let you know. So that's from the outside, and I think these look a little different. Um, so the model editor, real quick, we're not going to go into too much of the model editor, but I know some things have changed. Okay, add a model here. Probably the big thing that I like that he added was one, it seems to be more zoomed in, and I think you can zoom in and like undo, which is actually very helpful because sometimes I clone a model and I accidentally move the sword, and I'm like, well, shit, I moved the sword in 1, 2. You can put it back and stuff like that. But now instead of this, like, if I go to him and I want his armor, right? Instead of messing with that red, blue, green thing, and where you really never know what it does, you can just click, and then you can be like, I want a blue, and then you kind of click around. So I think it's going to make coloring models way easier, and I like it much more. Um, uh, you can make things tools. You can put in info. I don't know if you could do this before. I never did, but you could put in the info while you make the model. So if you want to put in stats or you want to put in anything, I think this was possible before. I just did. Um, yeah, and that's the big stuff from the model editor that I know about. You can like zoom in and go back and stuff like that, and the color. So that's a big thing. So we're just gonna go straight into a game. So we're gonna go into this game where I have two accounts open, so we can mess with opponent stuff. So first off, I don't think you can see more hotkeys at the top, same hotkeys at the bottom. Again, I don't have like a script that I'm going through with all the changes. I'm just going to talk about them as I remember them. You still have a load screen. Two big things that come from this, and I'll actually do it using my other name. So if I put these models up here and I load, right? So we have the save and we have the load. I do like that it's bigger so you can see all of them easier. So I come to load and I'm going to come test, but I'm going to do strip user ID. And what this does is I'm going to load the same models you saw, right? So what you see is I can't do anything here, but the models I just loaded, I can move. So you can do something where you load a game and the enemy can move your models for you. One feature now, I actually didn't know this was there until just now, but I was making this video. But one thing I would consider is having this feature on any time, like an actual like during the game, if you want to give permission to somebody to like let enemy use it, right? Like you could click on your unit and say, I don't know, let enemy use control this model or ignore, who uses it. So there are times where I think loading will be very useful, but I also think there's something to be said for in the future, being able to turn off permissions unit by unit. So these units I can't touch, these units I can. So that's a really cool feature. I actually really like that. I think it has some very nice uses for people who want to do like email games, or the enemy wants to test something, or if you're playing with a friend and you want to let them, like, I don't know, if you're playing, I don't know, partnership, that could happen. I don't know, it opens up things. I like it a lot. um One thing, the board, I think it looks a lot cleaner on the edges. One, you can see the whole board to start with. um he added so you can actually drag like this. If you ever played before, you would know that if you had like your tokens out here, you couldn't drag starting from out here. It would actually move the screen, and now you can now you can do it. So that's a big thing. Quality of life. Let's just go across. Let's go down here first. Templates. The pen has been moved out of here, which I think is good. The symbols, you can. I like that you can see more of them at once instead of the little screen. This is a new one where it's a text box, and I believe, I don't know if everyone can move it. Anyone can move it, but you just come in and you go, all right, note, hey kids, right? And it just says it. And so if you want to save these, if you want to put them out during the game, if you want to, for anything, I think a lot of, Kings of War and stuff have like wavered and or fleeing. And I know people make a lot of their own with the words in the model maker, but you could also do here, just make a bunch of these and then move them around easily. And they're small and you just put it behind you, stuff like that. So that's really cool. Or if any type of note, anytime something comes up, you don't need like a million tokens to do it. So I really like that feature. I'm gonna like a lot of these features. So, and again, this is for anyone who wants to use UB, we made some upgrades. I don't think anything else from here is too important. Terrain. Again, you'll see these screens be a little different. Might get something to get used to, but one thing that's kind of cool is you can flip the board. So as this player, let's say I like to play from the top side or bottom side, right? So I'm playing from the bottom side here, and me on my orc, I'm playing from the top. I can go, all right, I'm gonna play from the bottom instead, and it's just mirrored. So if I move this guy this way, it's just mirrored here, right? That's pretty cool. One thing to note, if you're playing, especially if you're typing or playing, you should probably tell the opponent that you're playing the opposite way, because if I have two of these guys and I say I'm going to charge the one on the right, well, it's actually the one on the left for the enemy. So you maybe come up and circle things with a pen or something like that. So that's just something to note, but it's really nice that if you like to play from one side, you can pretty much always have your view on the bottom side. Ooh, interesting. Oh, I'm on this name. I can only control one. Okay, I think that's all that's super important in these. Is there anything in the load? Maybe the... No, I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything too big there. Model. So it's going to be streamlined a little bit until you click on something, nothing shows up. Unless you make the base bigger, it's not going to show the options to have the tray. So if you knew this game in the old one, you could have these three clicked and then you would go to a new one. Once you go to one, they go away. They never showed up anyway because they only show up on the tray. So that shouldn't be different. Most of this should be the same. It's just outlined a little differently. Like this is, you have to click, it's not two separate buttons. This is the same thing. This is on and off. You can change your army. Not much different than before. I think the one big thing that might be different is that if you come here, there's no button that says set as default. You actually... Ooh, what is that? What the hell just happened? Oh, it went to my name. Oh, shit. If you click on my name, it'll go to all mine. Is that how it works? Maybe. But like, if you just click out, it'll do nothing. If you set as default, it would set it as default. I'm not going to do that. You have to set as default, then click out. I don't want this to be... I want Warriors to be my default. I still want to play Warriors. Okay. So I think that's the big thing on making units. Again, simple as it was before, just a little cleaner looking. I think you could do this eye stuff before. I don't know. If you could, you could. I didn't do that all the time. So dice, you can always click here to do the number, or you can do this. You know, same here. Nothing too crazy with the dice. I'll say one thing just before I get into all the hotkeys up here is, in order to play new UB, I would say it's very hotkey focused. Not very as in like you can't do it with just your hand, but you're probably, to get maximum usage out of the new features, you're going to want to use the hotkeys to change different things. So yeah, so now we can start just by clicking on a unit. You can see different things. A lot of things we got before. Probably one thing that people will use a lot is the hovering. So I can click on this unit, hover this unit, and it'll show you exactly the distance away it is. Closest point to closest point. If I click on a single model, it'll do the unit, or it could do single model. I guess it'll do it to the unit. One thing, we'll talk about that later. So yeah, So this is the 2 decimal points because of rounding. So when you do normal movements, it'll track it as it'll round it to 0.1 because no one wants to add like 2 decimal points when they're moving. But one reason this is happening is, you could technically, if it rounded to two, let's do this guy, right? You can see how it's just out, right? So if you do the distance between the two, it's 12.04. So we know it's over 12. Technically, if this was to do 1 decimal point, it would round down to 12. So people could get in arguments that, hey, you're outside the line. I guess in the greatest of technicality, you could get so close to the line that it's over by a pixel and it'll round up because it's like, yeah. So like this example, it's like within realm. Anyway, to stop arguments like that, just talk to your opponent beforehand about on the line, on the line. I mean, it's really hard to get it like so close that the rounding, and most people check it will check it now with this feature, which I think is a great feature. So again, 2-digit rounding for this, just to make sure this is exactly 22, and where if I go just a little bit back, it's over 22 for charge ranges, so good there. You can see right now I turned on the feature with all the lines. So what features does it have now? It has the normal rings as we had before. It has the arc of sight. It has wheeling. So this shows you if this unit was to wheel, what path it would go along. It shows you the center point of the unit. This is for Kings of War. This is actually the whatever unit point, I forget, leader point. But also, it's actually nice for 9th Age because when you're, marking if you're in the front or flank of a unit, you need to know where the center of the front is a lot, so that helps as well. So there's no problem there. It was added a half-inch line for 9th Age, so you know where the half-inch is when you're moving. It's a nice different color and thinner, so you're not going to get it confused with the first line. Currently, you can't turn this off. I know KOE players won't use KOW players. Sorry, not KOE. Won't use it, but it is what it is. And then obviously when you click on an enemy, it will show up as well. One thing to note, so we all, at least I do, normally play with tabs on, right? The tabs is what actually let you click on single models in unit. And it's H is the hotkey. So me as the player can always click on my unit and see this, but if I wanted to get the wheel for this whole unit, I can't. There's no tab for me to click on, so you have to turn off tabs and then click the unit. So that's something to get used to. That unless you need to click on individual models, turn the tabs off and just move the units like this. Just FYI, it's one to note. But you see everything here. Also, the feature. Let's say let's say you're trying to move your unit into a site. You can use the hotkey C, and let's actually use enemy units that I can. I'll just move it on the other side. Control Z is also a go back, and I think there's a repeat, so it logs a lot of movement. So let's say I want to move my guy, out of sight. I can keep these on just by hitting C, and then I click on them and it goes away. We can also do circles. So if you want to do leadership range, and that's Control Shift C, I think. Shift C is that. Control C, Alt C, Alt C. Again, once you get used to the hotkeys, it'll be better. Or you can just click up here. And then the wheels would be, this is Shift C. You could keep these out. So if you want to chaff, you could know if I'm standing right here that he can't wheel around me because both lines get hit by my model. And then you just Shift C to remove it. I think actually because this has it too, it's really nice. So obviously you can just come here and click it a couple times. But if you want to see it ahead of time, you could just use the hotkey. So I think people will use these a lot, and the enemy can't see you do it. So you can have all the lines you want on the board, and you won't bother your opponent. So those are those. He removed some of the clutter around here, like the linking and the trash can. There's only 2 things: turning the unit and then this. One thing that's kind of cool, if you have this off and you're moving this unit, it kind of like shows you which way it's going to wheel. And so what's actually nice about this is before you even move the unit or when you're moving the unit, I think, from a 9th Age perspective, if this was my Elder and I was coming up with my Knights, I would know right now that I could wheel behind my Elder. Sometimes people don't check that and then they get screwed by it. So it's a nice thing to note. It's a nice reminder. Then you go, the other way, stuff like that. Grid, it turns into a grid of 1 inches. Again, I don't know somebody would use it. I don't use it for anything, but it's there. I think somebody asked for it. This is the tab thing we talked about. Again, it's H is the hotkey. There will be times you'll have to turn it on and off, but if you have the hotkey, you probably shouldn't matter. This is the locking XY axis, which is X. Again, this is a good one to know the hotkey for, because there's going to be times where you're like, I'm going to move my unit, I'm going to move here, and then I need to go straight forward for some reason. I want to test it. Another additional thing I just noticed is the angle of the enemy is, if you click on them, it's down here. So no more asking what angle are you at. You can go, he's at 180. And so I know if I want to be flush with him, I need to be, 0. There we go. I'm flush with him. Stuff like that. Lock pens up here now, which I think is way better because people use it a lot. And I think there's a P, and then erase is what? I don't know what erase is. There's a list of hotkeys here. Is erase a hotkey? Nope. Wrong one. Lines. Draw. I guess erase isn't hotkeyed right now. Maybe it should be, but it's okay. You can just click the button. This is the undo, redo thing. And you can redo stuff too. So if you want to go back and forth. No more pen. We'll keep going across the top. So unit marking is A. This. On and off. So I can move my unit. And then I click A again. And it'll move to where I am. And so one thing that's cool is let's say I mark these 2 units, and I move this guy here and I move this guy here, and I forget which arrow is which. If you hover the arrow, it actually shows you which unit you're going to bring back. Now, if the unit dies, it doesn't auto-delete it, but if you just hover your mouse over it, it'll go away. So not a huge deal. You can't mark your entire army, but again, and you can undo deletes now, which is really nice. Again, if this is your army, you can just, it's not that hard to click A on a bunch of units really quickly. So, one feature I'm still curious about if people like or don't like is, would you as the enemy want to see these markers? Because a part of me wants to, because if I have these marked and I move this like this, me as the enemy, I have no idea where they started. So if I wasn't paying attention and I don't log moves, I wouldn't know where they started. So part of me wants to have the option to be able to see that, honestly. So that's some feature I might suggest as well, but it's really cool. So honestly, like I said, if the unit gets deleted, you just hover it and it goes away. And then I just undid to bring it back. That's this one. Plus is add units. Linking is the same as it was before. You just click L, and I can link to here. Easy enough. I didn't link yet. Yeah. There probably maybe should be a button to undo all unit placing, so you don't have to go back and do it again. But again, that's something we could be done. All right, so here's some of the big ones, and I think they do need some explaining. So just so people understand how it works. So we will actually delete. We're going to delete the. Can I not move these separately? Here. I might have to talk to them about that. Oh, it's because I don't have H on. Okay, yeah. Oh, because they come as a tab. Okay, yeah. I gotta turn off. I gotta put on tabs. So he has added a feature where you can change the base size. So I can make these 5x3. I can make them let's say 2x5. Right? So I think you need to understand a little bit about what it's doing so that you can use it properly. So first off, it will make the tray whatever you say it's going to be. So if I say 2x2, it'll make a 2x2 tray, but you'll see that some of the models aren't on the tray, right? Because only the front 2 are. So you have to be able to do the math of, if you want to make this 3 wide, you have to know how many rows you need potentially. It will keep the center of the unit when you do this. So you have to do it right. So, we'll take an example. Oh, here's a feature. You can clone a unit. Just click this, clone. So if you ever want to do 2 units, it'll clone right next to it. So, right, these 2 units are equal. And if I say 2 by 5, oops, 2 by 5, the center will remain the same. But if I undo and I do it wrong, I do 2 by 2, the center did not remain the same because the center of a 2 by 2 is here and not all the way down there. That's one thing. Now, let's say I want to add this guy to here, right? And I link him with L, I link him, and now I want to put him in. So I know I have to add a row. If you do only base, it will not change the middle. It'll just add it to the back, which is great. It won't shift the unit forward, because if I did it the other way, right? Let's do it here. If I did it the other way and I said, all right, make this 5 by 3, and I didn't click this button, it shifted it up. But if I do it with the button, it just added to the back. So good to know that if you need to go back or if you need to go otherwise. So, now he added a function where you can add plus or minus key, is adding and minusing units. If you do it, whether it will not extend the base. So you need to make the base bigger first. You can do it like this, but then it will offset it. It won't be the center. One thing to note, yeah, there we go. I made the base bigger. So it counted for it. So that's nice. It will not make the base auto smaller, but you can do it yourself. It's not that hard. So perfect. You don't have to keep making new units and stuff like that. There is a magnetize function if you click on a single model, right? So if you click him and you want to magnetize, what it does is he has to be linked to this unit. If he's not linked, it won't work. But if he's linked, it will. So you click here and then you click magnet S, I guess. Snaps to unit's position, right? He'll snap into position of the unit. And this unit can turn it on too, and they'll move and be flush. So when you're adding a character to a unit, you might want to do the magnet and then say, okay, I want to make sure he's equal angle. One thing that's kind of cool is if you're adding a character that's on an off angle, he will snap to the angle of the unit. So a lot of times when playing, you'd have, if this wasn't on, you get somebody who's like, I'm going to join the unit, and they're like, and they kind of sloppily put him in like this. And then when it comes to like the character charging out, he's not perfect and it looks stupid. So if you just magnetize and snap him right in, boom. I believe this works for even bigger models too. So let's just see what happens here. I have to do this. He'll snap in, and then I can pull units away and snap him right in there. So again, it doesn't know all the T9A rules about having to go to the center or stuff like that. So you're gonna have to mess around with it a little bit as needed. I think one thing, let me just take a 40mm model. I believe so with something like this, let's just snap to this unit. Let's link him here. So if you were to magnetize him, I guess it's already on. You're going to have to mess with it. It's not perfect for mismatched units. I guess it works on that side. I don't know why it didn't work on this side, but it works a little bit. One thing to note here, though, and this is for you can't make the tray like this size, like the same size as him. So when you're wheeling and, doing positional stuff, it won't be perfect. So you're going to have to mess with it or, adapt to it. Again, it's kind of T9 specific. It is what it is. Maybe that's a feature that gets changed in the future. I think it requires a little bit of programming that's very T9 specific, so I don't blame him for not having it working perfectly right now. But just be smart. Again, this is incredibly better than what UB does now. You still have to be smart about it. You have to do the math of this, which isn't that hard. Oh, one feature that I'm super excited about is, so the plus or minus, adds models to the unit here. If you do plus or minus on a single model, even like a knight in the unit, plus it goes up. So one thing is when you click on the base, plus is an additional model. Plus is an additional model. Minus is removing one. But if you go to a unit like a elder, plus is +1 wound. So and minus is to count down the wound. So when you have single models, instead of having all these markers around, You can just do this, and your character in a unit, and he could have 3 wounds, he could have 2 wounds, he could have 1 wound. And one thing that's kind of cool is as you turn the unit, it stays facing the right direction, so you don't have to read it upside down or anything like that. It's always perpendicular or whatever to the ground. I think it's a great feature. I think Kings of War players are really going to like this feature because instead of having markers everywhere, you just have your units, like, because they use full units like this, and you just mark your unit. I wonder what happens if you turn on H. It'll just add models. Okay, that makes sense. So those are the big ones there. I think I covered most of it, right? Is there something I'm missing? Marking units. No. I think most of it is the same as it was before. Like, I can't think of anything additional. I mean, that was a lot of stuff. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I mean, from a speed perspective, I think the unit marking, removing things, removing wounds from like the Demon Prince, the reforming, making sure that if it's only base, it'll extend the back. If you click this off, it'll be the center. These are things you're going to kind of have to learn. Hotkeys, especially, I think like H to turn off the tabs will be important. Because if you want to see, the distance between, or you want to click on a single model or turn on this, you need to have H off. If you want to click on a single model, you have to turn H on, stuff like that. Because one captures the movement tray and one captures the model. But the shift stuff, just having, the ranges available. If you want to, I want to say he's my general and I'm going to have a 12-inch range, stuff like that. Yeah. Unit marking, again, it's not, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be a little smart with it, but I think there's a lot of really great features that come with, the unit marking and things we used to do by hand should be much, much faster once people get used to it. A lot of the bookkeeping is becoming a lot easier. Unit marking, wounds, even being able to make notes with, this over here is just super nice. You're just being able to say, I don't know, and just having this available and then putting on the board. Being able to see the whole board, having this over here kind of be the same as the table. It's just off the table, obviously. You don't need to make as many units as you did before. And cloning, obviously, that's really cool too. If you really want to mark something special, if you want to, make 2 more elders, whether you're making models or just to test things, you don't have to get out a new base. You can just clone the guy and then stuff like that. Yeah, that's it. So, join the Discord, test it out, see if there's any changes you want to make, and he's open to suggestions, and he's already making changes as we go. So, try it and enjoy it. Thanks.